Well, hello everyone and welcome to another video in our series on worship, and today we're going to talk about excellence and perfectionism.
Perfectionism and excellence. If you watched last week's video when we talked about preparation and that we want to be growing in our skills and come prepared and bring our best, we ended on this note where it's like, is that perfectionism? Kind of sounds like it, but we said no, and we want to discuss that today because we believe there's a difference between excellence and perfectionism, and we want to strive for excellence. But Debbie, what is excellence?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think excellence is doing something to the best of our abilities, isn't it? I always remember when the Psalms were told to play skillfully, and I think that's important when we come to be involved in leading worship, that we do it with the best that we can. We bring our best to it. We aim to play and sing and mix skillfully. And that varies, from person to person. None of us are given all the same skills or gifts. We've all got different things, and we've all got different scenarios. Or some of us might be devoting hours to playing an instrument. Some of us have, other jobs and families and other things, and we squeeze
have
in.
A life.
Have a life. Yeah, we squeeze in a little bit of music, and we've all got different talents. And whatever our scenario is, we want to do the best that we can with what God has given to us, so that we can lead well. I really like to remember, there's a phrase, I think John Piper uses it actually, undistracting excellence. So the undistracting excellence, I think the thing to remember is we're not here to try and put on a perfect show when we come to lead worship in church, but what we do want to do is lead people well. And so we don't want to be distracting, either because we're going way over the top and we're, riffing all over something, or trying to show off all of our amazing musicality or something like that. That can be a little bit distracting when people are just trying to worship God. On the other hand, if we are hitting a whole bunch of bum notes, that's also a little bit distracting, because suddenly the focus is on you. And I've certainly had those moments where have you ever had any of those moments?
We all had these moments. The worst one was when I was singing one song and playing another song.
Oh wow.
And my mind was just going nuts, and I had to stop the whole thing. I was like, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, and it happens, doesn't it? I've had the classic keyboard moments where I think I'm going to ease in with this beautiful smooth pad in ministry time, and the EQ filter is at the complete other end, so it blasts in, and suddenly the focus is on me for all the wrong reasons. So those are the moments we want to avoid where we can, but we don't want to slip into a perfectionist thing, because we recognize we do all make these little mistakes. So what's the distinction between excellence, trying to strive for our best, and perfectionism?
Yeah, I would say perfectionism is the idea of not making a mistake. It needs to be flawless, it needs to be perfect. Like, there is nothing you can criticize, there's no mistake, no wrong, no whatsoever. And excellence is the best of our abilities, and we are people, we have lives, whether you're a full-time staff member or you're a full-time musician, like you said, we're all in different scenarios, and even in our lives there's ups and downs there. Yeah. Excellence can look one way one week, and the next Sunday excellence is a different story. Yeah. Because something happened. You didn't have the time to prepare in the way you had the week before. Yeah. So excellence is grace. There is grace in that it actually takes us serious. It starts with us, and perfectionism starts with a goal that is unreachable for us. We have the idea of perfection, of what is perfection, but we will never get there. Yeah.
So why do you think then, Arne, in the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus says,
oh wow,
be perfect? just as your Heavenly Father is perfect. Why do you think Jesus tells us to aim for perfection?
Putting me on the spot here. I haven't done the whole exegesis yet. But I would say Jesus picks up something in, we read it in Greek, and it's the idea of what we read in the Old Testament of be holy. Be set apart, be like God. We are created in His image, and He's the perfect one. He's the excellence. He's more than we can think of. He's going beyond perfection. And the Bible tells us, be like that. You're created in that image. And that is not a point where God said, oh, you have to be, like, it's not a pressure point, but it's grace. We can be someone who we are not yet.
Yeah.
We have the ability to grow. We have been given talents. We have been given gifts. We have been given time and the ability to strive and to grow.
Yeah.
And again, like New Testament scholars, don't pin me down on this, but I would say Jesus is referring to that. Be holy, like I am holy.
Yeah.
Be perfect, like God is perfect.
Yeah.
And it's this idea of being alive, not stopping, not being complacent with where we are or always have been, which is also a funny phrase because we hear that in church a lot, like we're not doing the same thing anymore, like we used to do this and we want to be like in the old times. But if we look at what the old times were, they were doing new stuff.
Yeah.
That's why they were living, that's why the church was growing.
You were saying earlier, when in nature, for example, when the moment something stops growing, it doesn't just stay steady state, but it's dying.
It's dying, yeah.
It's a bit like that for us, I think, isn't it? We always want to be moving forward, not complacent and stopping and settling.
Yeah, and you can see it in the church. That the church is not on the move with where the Spirit is going. Let's put it in these very spiritual terms. But I think that's what it is, because God's Spirit is alive. It is the power of resurrection that lives in us. And if we say, well, it's fine as it is, then we're losing sight of where God is going. Then we're not following where He sent us.
And I wonder as well, coming back to the question of, be perfect and so on, and perhaps that what Jesus is doing is giving us a really compelling vision, because I think when everyone, just taking it back to the immediate context of the Sermon on the Mount, when we read that, it sounds wonderful, doesn't it, to be kind to your neighbour and turn the other cheek. And it's only when we go to live it out that we realise actually how difficult it is. But is it good for us to just say, well, I don't think I would be able to go the extra mile, so maybe I'll go with them one? And then you fall short of even that goal. So I think it's good for us to have a big picture of, we want to strive for it to be perfect. And then we might not hit perfection, but we might still do something that's really, really good. Whereas if we say, well, it's never going to be perfect, let's just try and get through, that doesn't really inspire or excite us. It doesn't help us grow particularly.
Exactly.
But I think it's about our attitude in that. So we don't want to say, okay, be perfect, and if you feel you need to be ashamed and beat yourself up and everything like that, I think we've got to have grace for ourselves and say, okay, we're striving, we want this to be perfect, and if we don't quite live up to that, that's okay. We brought our best to it, and next time we're going to try again and keep moving forward and improving in what we're doing.
Yeah, Jesus and Paul are both very good examples in that. Jesus as the one, we'll never be like Jesus. And there's things that Jesus did that we don't have to do, like going on the cross, which is good. But we still, the Bible encourages us to become more like Jesus.
Absolutely.
Be like Him.
Yeah.
We'll never be able to get there. But it's the journey, it's the idea of wanting to get there.
Yeah.
One prayer that I pray every month, which comes up in my prayer, it's like, I don't know if I'm pleasing you, but I believe the desire that I want to is actually pleasing you. So yes, I might be doing things in my life that are not really pleasing to God, that are not really the things that I should be doing. But when I have this, as long as I'm seeking after God's kingdom and God's word in my life, that is what God wants. It's the heart, actually. It's not so much about the sacrifice. It's not about what we like give in our hands, but it's the heart.
Yeah.
And it's that idea, while we're coming a long way from perfectionism, but we're coming to it's this, yes, we want to strive for the excellence. We want to strive for something that is beyond us. And we will never get there without the grace of God. But also we are free to receive the grace of God in that.
Yeah.
And the grace from each other. And we don't have to beat ourselves up nor our neighbor, because we didn't achieve what we wanted to. It wasn't as perfect, as flawless as we hoped it would be. And that's for all the teams, whether it's the music, the sound, the visuals, the live stream. Even if, like any team, wherever we serve in church, we want excellence. You don't want to do the decorations and say, well, I put one flower up, like that. It's like, no, if you want to decorate, you want it to make, like, it should look nice. You want something that feels nice, that looks nice, that welcomes people. And when we worship in church, in our worship services, we want to help people to have an encounter with God.
Yeah.
And that is our excellence, and that is it's a goal that we should be willing to go seek after and press into, and not be, well, it's like, it's not that important.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, and there's there's the task of playing the music and mixing the sound and bringing up the slides and so on, that we want to, bring excellence and everything to that, and we might not hit perfection, there might be a few little mistakes, but then actually the aim is to have this encounter with God, isn't it? Is to bring our hearts before Him in worship. And again, we know our hearts aren't perfect either, our desires for God aren't completely pure, but then we know, that our worship is offered up to God through Jesus. He sees us through Jesus and perfects our worship as we offer it to Him.
Yeah.
So, we're not trying to make it good enough for God or something like that, or try and make something that's acceptable, because we know we are, because of Jesus, we're already accepted and welcomed in terms of our actual offering of worship. And then we want to then come to the task of leading everyone else, just bringing our best, because we know we're already accepted by God because of Jesus. So we bring our best to the practical task of playing and mixing and doing all the things that we do.
Yeah.
And still have grace for ourselves in that, knowing like we'll always make little mistakes.
Yeah.
But we just keep stepping forward.
Yeah, and learning from mistakes. Like you said earlier, when you were in music college, you had to make mistakes in order to grow and to learn how to deal with it. Yeah,
we had an exercise where we had to play our recital but intentionally make a mistake and recover. So we don't want to be in a place where if we make a mistake it's going to completely throw us and we can't carry on, because those things do happen, and we have to learn to just think, well, that's just part of life, let's carry on with the task at hand. So, yeah, it's an important part of our experience is to make mistakes, to move on, keep getting better.
Yeah, exactly. And our worship is not about the perfection. Like, even what we call a mistake doesn't have to be a mistake. But yeah, the grace aspect. So coming to an end here, I think the real difference between excellence and perfectionism is the grace.
Yeah.
It's the grace, and it's something. Excellence should be something that motivates us.
Yeah.
Perfectionism is more likely to be something that distracts us, or even...
Yeah, it can bring a lot of fear, actually, because we think, well, it must be perfect, and if it isn't, then I've failed, or, I feel ashamed of what I've done. Whereas excellence, we're still, I guess, in some ways striving for perfection, but we're not thinking that our whole self-worth then rests on our performance. We're just trying to do the best we can, and we're okay with if there's a little mistake in there.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up, I think it's a really interesting topic to discuss, and I think we really want to encourage everyone on the team actually to go after excellence, but realise this isn't we don't want everything to be perfect. We want you to chase after that, and it'll be different for every person, what it looks like, depending on what your unique gifting is and what your capacity is to invest in it, but we hope that we'll all feel like we just want to bring our best, whatever that means for us, to bring excellence and to play skillfully, like the psalmist said, so that we can do a great job of that task of helping people to encounter God in worship.
And that leads us to our next video, because he said it looks different to everyone, and I believe even the idea of what is excellent, what is beautiful, what is pleasant looks different in everyone, like from everyone's perspective, because we're all creative people, we're artists, we have our preferences, and I feel like that's a topic that we can spend some time talking about. Us as creatives in this whole field, as musicians, as visual creatives, as bringing ourselves out there, making ourselves vulnerable. But yeah, being a creative as a leader in the church is a tension that I feel like it's worth it to talk about. So
definitely.
Stay tuned. See you next week.
See you next week.